EA sabotaged Need for Speed Unbound in fear of backlash. This is something we know, but it might go a little bit deeper than that. To start, I've been told nothing by Criterion, nothing by EA, nothing by anyone connected to any of these companies. This is just looking at what's in front of us, what's obvious, because that's how we've worked it out previously. But as I said, I think this goes further. We've come to the conclusion that EA did this in part because there are many reasons Need for Speed Unbound was perceived in a wrong way, and we could get into those. We have. However, this one in particular, I think is one of the big ones, and their lack of advertising. In fact, at the time, there were multiple articles saying, why the hell is EA not advertising this? I mean, they launched the game within like 1 month of the announcement, or it was a very short window that was completely just weird. It's something very strange, and I've never seen this with like basically any game ever before. A$AP Rocky was undergoing some legal problems because he was possibly facing some assault charges, possibly shooting someone. It was not looking pretty good. So EA decided to pull off a little bit because they'd invested so much time into A$AP Rocky. In fact, this was supposed to be the cover of the game. I mean, it was supposed to have more A$AP Rocky in it in general. And that's kind of the basis of this video. I mean, here's some iconic Need for Speed cars, for instance. EA has always done a pretty good job, and if not some of the best job in the industry, in making cars really fucking cool. Worth knowing that in February 2025, that's when the charges were dropped. He was found not guilty of any of these things, but that is way after the launch, and therefore the damage had already been done. Essentially, my theory is that EA, instead of advertising the game properly, giving it a full cycle, they wanted to do it quietly, not advertise it. That in combination with the lack of PlayStations available to buy at the time, the real rapid shift in the visuals of the game, all led to the game really not doing very well at all. Maybe it's now doing a little bit better, but we don't know. My stance is that this is unfair because Criterion then got put on Battlefield, and now we're at the end of the generation where the consoles are at their peak, they're at their height. There's very little people that I'm sure you know that don't have a platform to play the new games on, and there's now no new Need for Speed. So it was stifled in practically every way, and then we're like, oh look, the game did do well, let's make Battlefield. Incredibly unfair, but anyway, this, my friends, is more about A$AP Rocky, because I kind of noticed, and I mentioned this in the previous video we made on this topic. If you play through the game, you know there's this weird section where A$AP Rocky essentially just talks for a little while. And in my opinion, this was really just kind of slapped together because they thought, oh crap, we got to get A$AP Rocky in here. Now, again, this could be two things. It could be because they were backpedaling on the budget for Rocky a little bit, but also they were struggling for time on this project. They had pretty hard deadlines being moved from Battlefield to Need for Speed to Battlefield. As someone that works in video, you can hear the point that his voice track switches to a new one. Listen to the laugh.
Nervous.
People don't get to know that.
I mean, that could have just been a general blend together, but that went from like studio mic to like something completely different. Anyway, it's messy. It goes through just this random ramble about kind of stuff. It was cool. I didn't hate it. I thought it was just a little out of place, let's be honest. Ultimately, my point is that it felt like a very disconnected experience that didn't really relate to anything. And well, that actually crops up pretty much every single time he's in the experience, other than maybe the events where he's in it, you know, the weird stunt events that they kind of layered into the game. It clearly had a bit of a messy time. In fact, in the game, when you actually go to race A$AP Rocky, this is where you win his car. It is actually really simplistic and basic. You just get thrown into an event, and the start of this event looks like it's in the same place as another piece of media that they released, but all you get is a normal intro. A$AP Rocky's at the window. He does a fun little ha and the race begins. And there's no back and forth. He just does a little intro thing as they normally do, and that's literally it. Now, let's be real. He was probably extremely expensive, and the budget for the expensive A$AP Rocky came from Need for Speed Heat, a very successful game that I will forever tell you, by the way, one of the best-selling Need for Speed games ever made, especially by modern day standards. It just felt empty. You win, you get his car, and that's it. Cross the line, there's the race finish. Any conversation with Rocky? Just that weird, like, dialogue that he goes through for about 7 to 10 minutes, and you win the car. Great. So then if that was it, why did they have this?
I put it to you like this.
Huh?
You dust me in this,
I'll let you have that.
What? Animated intro showing cars side by side, dramatic race showing you racing against ASAP Rocky, who was like the idea of running the streets right now. You're gonna take it from ASAP Rocky, cops included, looks like this big aggressive race. You're telling me you put in all the work for the cutscenes and everything, and you didn't use it? That's a little weird to me. That wouldn't be something I would throw away. Have you seen the intro? That was fantastic. As I said, there's a chance that they just didn't have the time to get this how they wanted, and that's a very real option. But at the same rate, I think both of these are true. Like, I don't think you realize they built the actual car for him. He, at least at some point, owned this 190E. Look at this thing. Like, they probably used the same team that built the wide body for the Polestar, but mate, they laid the budget on this. I just can't comprehend. How could you go to this length and then just not advertise the game? They made the damn car. They clearly had built cutscenes that they didn't use in the game. The damn cover of the game removed ASAP Rocky from the front of it. Basically, they ripped him out as to the extent that they could without having him still in there because he was still in the trailer and stuff like that. You're telling me they made an attempt to make a car as iconic as the M3, as the 350Z, the Polestar from Need for Speed Heat? They're the only developers that actually try and make these big ticket cars in games anymore. No one does that anymore. It tells me this car and ASAP Rocky had a more significant part of the game, and it was stripped out, and we were left with a shell of essentially what it was supposed to be. If you think about the context of the car is just kind of there. If they had the ability to really flesh this kind of experience out in the way that clearly was intended based on the media we literally have, it could have really created a much more important car. I mean, as of right now, even the Polestar, they just binned it off right at the beginning. I don't understand what they were thinking in trying to create an iconic car, and they bin it, and you couldn't even get it at the end of the game until an update came out, which is absolutely wild. I give them so much respect because they really were the only people trying to create something super unique and actually peddle it as to be like an icon car. But every single time, they mess it up them damn selves. And this usually comes from EA, right? EA is the reasoning that the Polestar, okay, maybe not, because the Polestar, the writing of the Polestar was just kind of ass. The car went in the water, so what? The M3 was special because it was taken from us and we had to get it back. And that was their intent with the car that was in Need for Speed Unbound. Remember that car at the beginning of the game? It was supposed to be super special. They tried it and it just didn't really work. Like, it didn't have the same effect. Rocky's car would have been perfect for the, oh my god, aspirational car. Maybe not in the same way it was taken from you, just a completely different idea, but nonetheless, it was just there. And that makes no sense whatsoever, and we know now the context, realistically, that it was supposed to mean so much more. Could this car have hit the ranks of the 350Z from Rachel? Could it have hit Eddie's Skyline kind of ranks? Because these are cars that are not really iconic to the level of the M3 GTR, but the fact is, they're culturally known. People build these cars. Everyone thinks of those cars when they see the cars. No matter what, someone out there is creating those cars, and you see them and it links them to the game, and it's basically free advertising for the franchise in general. Everything seems to work against Need for Speed, but it always delivers a really fun arcade experience, and I really am missing it right now. It has been the longest we've gone without a Need for Speed game, and that's wild to think of. Of course, that's kind of a general consensus in games in general, but knowing what could have been, I don't know if this helps you, but I thought it would be a nice way to just keep the conversation going, because ultimately, if they were given all the tools, all the platform, and all the time and effort they needed, just like Battlefield was, we could have the best Need for Speed experience we've probably ever had. Let's be honest here. They are so close to being able to deliver that. I mean, they delivered something basically borderline perfect with Need for Speed Heat, at least in the consensus of Need for Speed franchise. A little bit more time, a little bit more love, a little bit more effort, and we could have the greatest Need for Speed, the greatest racing game experience that we've actually ever seen. We want the feeling of ownership. We want the feeling of rivalry. It boils my blood because every single time. So I want to wrap this up with basically giving you the full context of why Need for Speed Unbound essentially failed, and these are the biggest, there's I'm sure more that we're gonna miss, but these are the biggest pillars that we now realistically know about. EA held back the development and publishing of this game for the sake of A$AP Rocky going through legal issues. EA held back Need for Speed based on the fact that Battlefield needed more love. And just to let you know, that was the Battlefield, the game before the current Battlefield, which was ultimately shite. EA made the decision to not have A$AP Rocky fully to the extent in the game. Criterion themselves decided we want to make the game visually different, ignoring the fact that Need for Speed Heat was absolutely one that stood out in the crowd in a huge way. Whether it was just in nighttime or daytime, it doesn't matter. The game had these beautiful neon lights, the theme, the aura, the atmosphere. It was so bad. The PlayStation, which is the primary platform that most people play Need for Speed games on, and it sells the best on, like most AAA games, this PlayStation was impossible to buy at the time. Christmas was around and no one could buy the damn PlayStation. It was terrible. I struggled to get one for my friend Matthew that we make videos together. It was awful. There was also the decision from either Criterion or EA, we don't really know, on making it so that it was only available on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S and PC. It wasn't available on last gen, the system that you could get, and I see no valid reason as to why it wasn't available on last gen. This game could have run on last gen on lower resolutions, lower frame rates, I don't care. It could have been possible, but because of their time restrictions, once again, from the EA, likely, they didn't have the time to make the port to the lower end system. That was probably one of the wildest decisions, and it really could have made the world of difference. The game is not bad. I don't care who says it is, right? This game was so much fun to jump in, and I still today, when I think of racing games, I think of Need for Speed. That is just how it is. Every Christmas, this series does well. It pops off, whether it's on sale or not, I don't care. Or they get less money, I don't care. Every Christmas, it tops the charts, and this is the first time I've not seen that to be the case, because ultimately they keep letting the games just fall back and back and back. If we do not get development of Need for Speed underway soon, we're going to have the same situation again where it becomes a new gen only game and it makes 0 sense. Oh my god. Can we please have a Need for Speed?